Well guys, now we move on with IELTS listening part 3, and the first type of questions that we have here is multiple choice. Again, multiple choice will be same, method is same, strategies are same. So let's do this together. It's in part 3, and by the way, you will get multiple choice in your actual IELTS test in part 3, most definitely. There is no other choice. Part 3 is for multiple choice and matching. Right? Yeah. So question number 21. Simon's main problem is that. Now Simon will have many problems. He will mention, I've got this problem, this problem, this problem, but the main problem, and that will be the answer. So you need to find out what is Simon's main problem. A. Disagrees with some of the sources. Like there are some sources. Sources means the material to study, but he disagrees with that. Option B, can't find some of the sources. If he says every time I go to the library and the book is not available or resource is not available, so can't find some of the sources. And C, doesn't know what sources to read. So main problem, if he says I know what sources to read or I don't know about the writers to read, it means it's not C. Right? If he says like disagree with some of the sources, say although I agree with all the sources which are available here, then it is not A. Right? So you got to listen carefully and then decide, and they will talk about these 3 options in any order. They may start with option B, then they come to option A, then they go to option C. Right? So you have to first catch the option. You must see, okay, now they are on option C. Now they are on option B, and now they have come to option A, and like that. Okay, you got to work very, very fast. That is why I advise you all, when you are doing IELTS listening, you should switch on your imagination. Once your imagination is also in the listening, for example, if he says my name is Simon, you imagine Simon. English movies kabhi dekhi hongi. Imagine Simon with curly hair or blonde hair or whatever. Imagine a character of Simon and he is talking. If he says university, just think about, you might have seen some foreign prospectuses. Think about any university. So then your attention will not be diverted. Otherwise, it's so easy while listening, your attention can be diverted. You can think about something else and then the game is over. 2-3 answers will be missed like that. So that's why visualize whatever you listen to. Okay, let's do this, please.
Hello, Simon. Come in. Take a seat. Now, I wanted to talk to you about your assignment.
Yes, the one on the scientific method.
That's right. I just wanted to see how you were getting on.
Well, I think it's fine. I mean, I haven't done a huge amount of work on it because I've been working on other things. But what I've read so far seems fine.
How many of the references that I gave you have you managed to get hold of?
Not too many, I'm afraid. It seems that everyone else is working on the same things at the same time. And every time I look, the books are checked out from the library.
Right.
Every time I look, the books are checked out from the library. So, its C is doesn't know what sources to read. No. He knows what sources to read. Every time he looks for the books and the books are checked out. So, can't find some of the sources. What are the source? For sources, they are using the word book. Book is a source, right? I play this again. Please listen carefully.
Hello, Simon. Come in. Take a seat. Now, I wanted to talk to you about your assignment.
Yes, the one on the scientific method.
That's right. I just wanted to see how you were getting on.
Well, I think it's fine. I mean, I haven't done a huge amount of work on it because I've been working on other things. But what I've read so far seems fine.
How many of the references that I gave you have you managed to get hold of?
Not too many, I'm afraid. It seems that everyone else is working on the same things at the same time. And every time I look, the books are checked out from the library.
Right.
Okay, every time I look, the books are checked out from the library. Now, please come to the next page. Question number 22. Which author has Simon found most useful? Most useful. In multiple choice, they use the words most, least, and all that. In true, false, not given, also they use the words most, least, all, few, some, and all that. So, which author has Simon found most useful? He will talk about all three authors. With two authors, he will say he mainly discusses the theory, but I want to look at the practical side of this thing, right? So, it means it's not that. Okay, when he says, but if he says a writer like Johnson, I read about Johnson, but I don't agree with most of the things he mentions, or he's got a lot of irrelevant stuff in his articles, so it's not Johnson. If he says Whitaker, I've read Whitaker and I have found him rather quite useful. So, where he speaks positively, that will be the right answer. With other two options, he will have trouble or problem, or he will speak negatively, that will be a trap. So, first you need to see, and it is very clear, they will talk about it one by one, you can easily catch it. Let's do it.
Well, I think that we can go over the main ground together now. That way, even if you don't manage to go through all the references in detail, you'll still have an overview. What has helped you most so far?
I've managed to have a look at 3 of them. I thought that Johnson made some good points, but it was hard to follow the line of her argument. Bradman was simple and straightforward, and I felt as if I got a lot out of that. I wish I could say the same for Whitaker. To be honest, I didn't get very far with that.
Okay,
I wish
that's
I could
more or less what I'd
say
expect.
the same for Whitaker. It means it's not Whitaker. So the right answer is C, exactly. Very good. Got it? Okay, so actually now you're doing it with me. When you're doing it alone, again you will complain, when I do it alone, I can't do it like this. Why? Because you don't focus. The way I'm telling you, and it will take time. When you're driving, automatically your brain is working. I mean, your subconscious mind is driving. You are not driving. Otherwise, when a new driver is driving, you're also looking down. Where is the paddle? Where are the paddles? One of my relatives, she was learning driving from a lady, and when she was learning, she was looking down. The lady said, "Thalle ki vekhni hai, samne vekh." Okay, so thalle she was looking, brake kidhar hai, paddle kidhar hai, and all that. So when you are learning, you are looking at all these things, and then those things go into your subconscious mind, and then comfortably you are driving, looking outside also, driving, enjoying, right? So this is the case with IELTS listening. Now we are doing it together. I'm teaching you a certain way of doing it. Once it is done like this, then you will be enjoying IELTS listening. I know what to see and what to listen and all that. Okay, let's go on. Questions 23 to 25. We call it table completion. And by the way, table completion questions are very common in part 1 and part 4. Yes. Very, very common. We do have in part 2 also, but part 1 and part 4, they are for table completion. Questions 23 to 25, complete the table below. Write no more than 3 words and or a number. So, history of scientific method. That's the table is about. Era, location and details, right? And you can see there is one question in era and 2 questions in details. There is no question in location. So, you will go like first era, early 1600s, then you will go to location, then you will go to details, and audio is going to be in the same way. Question number 22, use of examination, dash, treatment and prognosis. So use of now actually Egypt and Babylon, they will say use of examination. For what? For 3 things. One is treatment, one is prognosis. Your answer will come with treatment and prognosis. It can be before, or it can be after, or it can be in the middle. Whenever they speak about treatment and prognosis, your answer is going to be the third thing. If it's a first of all, it's the treatment. Secondly, prognosis, and finally, that will be the answer. Or they can say it's actually treatment, prognosis, and that will be the answer, right? Let's do this.
So tell me, what have you learned so far about the role of the Egyptians and the Babylonians?
Yes. Well, there's evidence that the basic components of the scientific method, examination, diagnosis, treatment, and prognosis were being used in the early 1600s BC, especially in the treatment of certain illness.
Good. Yes, that's right.
So, diagnosis. Now, how to write the spelling of diagnosis? Yeah, you can copy it. The last part you can copy from prognosis. N-O-S-I-S. D-I-A-G-N-O-S-I-S. Diagnosis. Very good. Question number 24. It's about 5th century BC. Ancient Greeks. And then they say ancient Greece. Then they say widespread. Although many still believe in the power of dash. Power of something. And Plato was influential. So in that time, many people believed in the power of something. So you got to listen, focus this thing, power of that very thing.
By the time we get to ancient Greece, let's take the period towards the middle of the 5th century BC, the rules governing the scientific method were practiced on a widespread scale, but there were still many people who believed that real truth could only be acquired by pure rational thought. Plato, of course, had a great influence on the development of the scientific method during this period.
Truth could be acquired by the pure rational thought. So the answer is pure rational thought. I play it again. For power of, they use the word truth could be acquired. Many people believed. Okay, let's listen to it again.
By the time we get to ancient Greece, let's take the period towards the middle of the 5th century BC, the rules governing the scientific method were practiced on a widespread scale, but there were still many people who believed that real truth could only be acquired by pure rational thought. Plato, of course, had a great influence on the development of the scientific method during this period.
Okay, now question number 25, very simple, Middle Ages before dash. It can be a century, right? Like for example, Middle Ages before 18th century, before 10th century, before 9th century. Very simple question. And you can see above, 5th century, early 1600s BC. So it's going to be something similar. Sometimes the information given above in table completion, the information given above can help you locate the answer. Let's see.
But then, as we know, a great deal of understanding of the scientific method disappeared as the old world order collapsed. It wasn't until the Middle Ages, sometime before the 11th century, that several versions of the scientific method emerged from the medieval Muslim world.
Sometime before the 11th century. So you can write 11th and century. If you write th with any word, any number, that still remains a number. For example, you write third, 3rd. Now don't expect rd to be a word. 3rd is a number, one number only. Okay, so the answer is 11th century. Now we have a flow chart. Let's do this together as well. Questions 26 to 30. Complete the flow chart below. Write no more than one word. Now it's only one word. Steps in the scientific method. So there is scientific method and these are the steps in that scientific method. Question number 26, very simple. Identify the dash. And keep in mind it's one word only. Identify the dash. So let's see.
The other thing I'm struggling with slightly is actually pinning down precisely what we mean by the scientific method. I wonder if you could give me some pointers on that.
Sure. Well, it's best to think of the scientific method as a series of steps in a process which allows us to find answers to questions about the world around us. So the first step is to identify the problem. What is it that you want to know or explain?
So the first step is identify the problem. Very good. Okay. Now after this they will talk about form hypothesis, create an experiment, perform an experiment, and then 27 dash the data, share the data, right? Process the data or anything like that. Okay, let's see.
And then I think the next step is designing an experiment.
But you can't design an experiment unless you know what you want your experiment to tell you.
Oh, yes. You need to form a hypothesis to be tested before you design the experiment.
So there's a very clear relationship between hypothesis and experiment. Having designed the experiment, then of course you go on to carry out the experiment. The particular procedure you follow, the protocol, will differ from experiment to experiment, but the underlying principle is the same. You analyze the data from the experiment in order to confirm or disprove your hypothesis.
Analyze the data. Very good. Analyze will be the answer. Okay, then they move on to question number 28. Is our data dash or the experiment flawed? Like, is our data correct? Is our data right? Is our data? So this may, the answer may come before data. Like they say incorrect data, correct data, something like that. Okay, let's see.
Assuming the experiment is accurate.
Oh yes, if there's anything unusual about the data, or if the results are at all surprising, then you need to ask yourself whether the experiment could be flawed and whether the data could be unreliable.
The data could be unreliable. You can even write surprising or unreliable. Okay, then 29. If it is yes, dash the experiment. It can be redo the experiment or any other word like that. Okay.
If the answer is yes, then it may be necessary to modify the experiment and go through the process again.
Modify the experiment and go through the process again. So the answer is modify. Very good. Last, dash the results. Share the results, pass on the results, publish the results, something like that.
So once you have reliable, valid results,
then the final step is to communicate them. The wider scientific community needs to know about the results, and publication in journals is the accepted way.
For results, they use the word them, and then they use the word results. So what is the answer? I play it again. Now it should not be missed actually. Sometimes instead of using the word, they use pronoun. Okay, let's see again.
So once you have reliable, valid results,
then the final step is to communicate them.
Them means results.
The wider scientific community needs to
Okay, then the final result is to communicate them. So once you get reliable results, and then for results she is using them, communicate them. This is called referencing. Is it all clear? Okay, very good.